like a man or whatever. But eventually, everyone runs out of steam, and you just take the beating of your life.
Do you think your ability to recognize your own limitations was developed by football, and do you think that translated into your leadership ability?
I think so. I definitely think so. I mean, football is one of those things that you could always quit, can never show up. You know, you do one season honorably, and then after that, you know, you don't show up for preseason or whatnot. But there was just something that was just always calling to come back. You know, all the hard work, and you know, you miss out on your summer. I wasn't one of those kids that worked a job during summer. You know, had my summers off. I think honestly, between sixth grade when my parents, you know, decided to, or fifth grade when my parents decided to send me off to Boston, up until now, I've never ever had a complete summer off, which is good in a lot of ways. But 2 days lifting, passing league, and then before that you got summer school, whatever, you know, because you're trying to, you know, better yourself. Or in my case, I was trying to stay afloat. But all that being said, you know, it's easy. You could just walk away and not have to do it, and just have a normal practice, you know, normal day. And at the end of classes, you could go home and watch Power Rangers or something. But football game, you know, it gave me purpose, you know.
Right. What was your motivation for entering the Marine Corps out of the Naval Academy?
It was same thing like football, you know. There were a lot of concerns about myself that I felt that I wouldn't be able to do, or I didn't want to do it because I felt like it was the harder thing to do. There's no way I could survive. Football being one of them, you know, and the other was joining the Marine Corps. Fifth grade, I think I saw Full Metal Jacket, and I was petrified of the Marine Corps. So I already had to figure out in fifth grade that I was going to be a basketball player. I was going to go like to the Air Force Academy and be a fighter pilot and get out and fly for United Air and make my six figures or whatever. Couldn't be further from the truth. Definitely didn't happen. But you know, one thing led to another. You know, you survive football, and you realize how much fun you really had in it. You know, and how much you longed at. Then, you know, okay, I said, well, I'm going to be a Navy pilot. But I get, you know, plebe summer, and I see this. It's amazing. I always like this play about the Marine Corps, you know, where they have everyone come out in these different costumes and all that. And it was one of those things that it was only a small number of people could get it. And it was, once again, just like I couldn't see myself playing football. And believe it or not, a lot of my friends couldn't see myself playing football. A lot of my friends, including myself, couldn't see myself being a Marine. So naturally, I was always the person that would want to gravitate towards the things that I would at least expect I was capable of doing.
What was your experience like at the basic school?
Basic school, believe it or not, I wasn't your high end student. Quite honestly, I was 222 out of 223. But for me, that it wasn't because I couldn't do it. It's just Naval Academy. I was a 5.5 year mid. You know, the longest mid in history, as they say. It took me 5.5 years to get to Naval Academy because I wasn't, you know, the most sound academically. Performance-wise, conduct-wise, I was fine. Same thing at TBS. But, you know, 5.5 years there, you know, you go into TBS and you're still in their evaluation process. And, you know, I'd say my confidence level was still a little bit shaky as far as academics, which kind of bled over to anything else. But Marine Corps was something that I wanted to be. So I wasn't going to let that, you know, put me down. I thought maybe, you know, I was going to be a pilot out of the basic school or whatnot. Had, you know, then changed my mind and thought I wanted to go infantry. And my roommates, you know, being that still is a critical phase in my life, my roommate said, hey, maybe you shouldn't be a Marine grunt, you know, maybe you should go to the support side. So I carefully picked each MOS. I said I was going to pick 2 combat arms, 2 support, and 2 dealing with, you know, the wing side, I guess. And whichever way it fell out would be fine. And grunts being at the number 1 of my, you know, combat arms portion, but it was on the bottom tier. And I got grunts. I don't know. Whereas my peers were very critical, and TBS was a very competitive environment, And number one, I was going to Bravo Company, so there weren't like literally little or no Naval Academy grads. I think it was like 3 of us. And among the, Bravo Company, you get a lot of prior enlisted. So a lot of those prior enlisted guys probably had a lot of bad experiences with previous Naval Academy grads they might have worked for in the past, and or they build stereotypes. Well, with that carries over because they carry that over into lieutenant. So it wasn't me just being a Marine. I definitely, it was, well, you're not really a Marine because you went to Naval Academy, so you've got to earn your keep or whatnot. And I was, there were times I constantly heard that, you're not a real Marine unless you go through, OCS. I think, but the interesting part about that was most of those guys that would say that were guys who had been Lance Corporals for maybe about 3, maybe 6 to 8 months or maybe a year and a half, and then managed to, go into OCS or, get a MESET package or whatever. So, or they were reservists. So, all intents, if I knew then what I knew now, I'd say, well, you're technically not a real Marine yourself since, you're a reservist. So, all in all, it was squaring up people, trying to be extremely competitive, but you weren't doing the best as you can, to better yourself. You're being the best so you could get the top of your, MOS. And
what about your experience at infantry officers course? Was it different?
Definitely different. Big turnaround. Once I got there, it was just like football again. I felt like I was back at home. IOC allowed me to really come into my own. I was no longer that lieutenant that was, getting scrutinized or whatnot, because IOC was, in the end, was something that I wanted to do. And my supply officer, my SPC, he was the one that actually picked me to go infantry. And he said, and he goes, you're a good fit for the infantry community. Regardless of what anyone says, I think you're going to find yourself to be real successful there. I think that's all I really needed to hear. And going to IOC and working with a lot of those advisors, it was a very, Socrates method, and it's, it's clubhouse. It's the clubhouse. And, kind of like being with a bunch of frat boys, that's where you were. You never knew from TBS what they were doing inside that little clubhouse, and you didn't talk about it once you were there. You didn't let anyone on the TBS side know. So with that, I ate that stuff up, and some of the guys that were in my squad, we just gelled real well. Which for the first time, I was no longer that kid struggling out of TBS. I was the kid on top. That I was once again, that kid on the team that everyone wants to pick, and that there to start to build my confidence. So I really enjoyed IOC. It was a great experience for me.
In contrast to basic school, did you spend more time at IOC on hands-on and in the field?
You did. I mean, we only had maybe 2 or 3 weekends off. Most time you would have maybe class on Monday for half a day, and after that you were in the field all until like Saturday morning, which was great. I mean, and it wasn't TBS was a harassment package where you had all assistant instructors on you all the time. It was an SP. Your advisor would show up, he would give you a grid, and then he would disappear, and you would never see him. Now I'm sure they were close by monitoring us or whatnot, but it was independent operations, and it was based on how well collectively all of us want to train and improve ourselves will determine how successful we're going to be. So it was all dependent on what we wanted to do and our motivational level. And that there in itself was great. I mean, you can't get that anywhere else where someone says, well, you have 10 weeks to suck up as much information as you can, because after that, that's it. You're going out to the fleet, and you'll be judged now, not by your peers more say, but you'll be judged by your Marines, and how well they respond to you will determine how successful you're going to be. The Marines are your fit rep, not how much or how well you can make your company commander happy or follow his intent. It's taking all that information, disseminating it down to your Marines, getting their feedback, incorporating them into the plan that you've developed so that they take ownership on it, because essentially they're the ones that are executing it. They're the ones that are going to build basically who you are.
Now, when you came to the Fleet Marine Force, you took command of 2nd Platoon.